Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very first week of September 2018. I know I say it every year at this time, but it's really amazing that the summer's gone. And it's nasty weather already. And
It certainly is here.
Leaves are already all over the floor out there, so...
Yeah, the wind's blowing, it's howling, the lightning storm's going on.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It is.
Anyway, back to Earth. Well, not a pleasant place to be anymore.
Was it ever?
Ever. Yeah. Well, it was before humans came. You remember. When it was like just us.
Yeah, but I don't think it was pleasant then either.
The dinosaurs were all rough, but...
They were fun to ride.
But that was your family. Anyway, back to real serious news. There's a Chinese-owned company operating in the Washington, D.C. area that hacked Hillary Clinton's private server throughout her term as Secretary of State and obtained all of her emails, according to two different sources. The Chinese firm obtained Clinton's emails in real time as she sent and received communications and documents through her personal server. Why would she do that? And it says the hacking was conducted as part of an intelligence operation. I'm going to get to something in a minute. The Chinese wrote a code that was embedded in her server. How did that get there? Which was kept in Clinton's residence in upstate New York. Well, that's private, keeping her, government stuff in her private home. The Intelligence Community Inspector General found that virtually all of Clinton's emails were sent to a, quote, foreign entity. And so I'm going to tell you something. According to some sources that I have, this was not a hacking. She allowed them to do it.
Well, I was going to say...
She gave them
but the thing
permission to install the code.
Where is U.S. intelligence knowing that she was doing these
U.S.
things?
and intelligence are words that don't go in the same
I'm
sentence.
just saying that they should be monitoring all our people.
So she authorized it. She did it. You have to ask her why. She is, as President Trump said, crooked Hillary. Or as the Chinese would say, crooked Hillary. That's probably what...
I'm ignoring that.
You ignore it, but you can't ignore me for too long. Anyway, now we're talking about the FBI. Now, this is a very interesting thing also. The FBI issued a referral to the Justice Department in July 2015, and the Bureau warned that classified information may have been disclosed to a foreign power or one of its agents. And this referral form is called an 811. And is classified information that was potentially released to a foreign power or agent of a foreign power, and it was due to a connection to a current public official, 2015, Hillary, political appointee or candidate. So they knew all the way back then, and former FBI Director James Comey acknowledged in his recent book, A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies, and Leadership, he goes under the lies, that the FBI was conducting a criminal investigation into Clinton's conduct. So even they knew back then, 3 years ago. Now, speaking of criminal behavior and poor conduct, a Monsignor who worked at the Apostolic, now this is an interesting word, Nunciature. Have you ever heard of that?
I have.
You have? You've
Yeah.
never discussed it with
Isn't
me.
that like a nunnery?
I don't think so. It's a Monsignor.
Yeah,
It's a man.
I know.
So,
I think that's the deal with
I guess he
nuns.
could have. Maybe he was a non-binary Monsignor. I don't know. Anyway, he was working in the United States. Corroborated an explosive report accusing Pope Francis of rehabilitating Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, despite knowing of his record of homosexual abuse of priests and seminarians. There's an Archbishop Vigano alleged that the Pope Benedict XVI had imposed canonical sanctions, I love these words, it's canonical, on Cardinal McCarrick in 2009 and 2010, forbidding him from traveling, celebrating Mass in public, or participating in public meetings, but that Pope Francis later lifted these sanctions, and guess what he did? This is a sexual abuser. He made McCarrick a close personal advisor.
Well, maybe he wanted to be sexually abused.
Well, I guess he had a habit of that. That's why he was in the nunnery thing. Now, it says, corruption has reached the very top of the church's hierarchy. You think?
Well, that's not news, is it?
No, it's not. But this Vigano stated that he personally informed the Pope of McCarrick's abuse on June 23rd, 2013, and yet Pope Francis continued to cover for him. So as I have stated many, many times, the Catholic Church is the biggest mind control agent of the Illuminati. Speaking of the Illuminati and mind control, the suspect in a deadly shooting in Florida video game tournament in Jacksonville had previously been hospitalized for mental illness, according to court records, in his home state of Maryland. And it also said that as an adolescent, he was twice hospitalized in psychiatric facilities, and that he was prescribed antipsychotic and antidepressant medications, but that his parents disagreed on how to care for their troubled son, and he opened fire last week on a gaming bar inside of a collection of restaurants and shops along the St. Johns River in Jacksonville. He killed 2 people, wounded 9 others, and then fatally shot himself. And this was a tournament called Madden, NFL 19. Madden, Madden, M-A-D-D-E-N. And 19, Mother of Darkness number. Not too many triggers there. So I have seen, and you and I have seen, a lot of such cases recently. Unfortunately. And these people, I have nothing against the mentally ill. I have been called this myself. But they should not be allowed to travel alone or buy guns or do anything without approval. And they should have someone, a guardian, with them all the time, because we've seen what has happened. Speaking of the mentally ill, you know about Antifa. I mentioned it last week. They actually attacked one of their own people for holding an American flag. Did you know that? And it happened in your old country, in Portland, Oregon. You didn't live in Portland, but you lived in Oregon. And that was on August 4th, 2018. It was a counter-protest in Portland. And there is a video showing Antifa members trying to take an American flag from a man, and one Antifa thug, as they call him, hitting the man with what appeared to be a club, and then nailing him in the head, and he collapses to the ground and holds his head. And his crime was carrying an American flag, which Antifa calls a fascist symbol. And before demanding he give it up. When he refused to give up, they attempted to take it from him, and when he wouldn't relinquish it, they clubbed him in the head. And they said the right, and certainly a lot of smaller groups like Patriot Prayer, might rush to things like the flag and try to take it up as this is our symbol exclusively. Now there's an Antifa group in LA called Serve the People Los Angeles, or StPLA, which protested recently in South Central Los Angeles to demand the release of an illegal alien woman who was detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE. StPLA is calling for, quote, militant escalations and defense of the illegal alien communities, which they call undocumented working class immigrant communities, and that we should do it by any means necessary. They are also calling for the organization of, and this is an organization in Spanish, Unidades de Defensa Populares Revolucionarios, which means the People's Revolutionary Defense Units, or which use revolutionary violence. The word revolution is in here. And they are calling ICE the enemies of the people, and they're also calling for a revolutionary vengeance. This is in the United States. Okay, and they attacked Trump. According to and this is an interesting news service, it's called Incendiary News Service.
That's actually what it's called.
Incendiary News Service, which is very clearly sympathetic to the Antifa group. They believe that rallies or even militant and illegal protests alone won't do anything. What is needed, they say, is a sea of armed masses organized to defend ourselves, but most importantly, organized to take power. Where have you heard this before?
Where?
Well, let's see. This happened in the Chinese Revolution. This happened in the Russian Revolution, and it happened in Nazi Germany, and so on. It says, we seek to build up the masses of Los Angeles, which is 70% Hispanic, by the way, toward revolution by becoming autonomous and militant. So they're going to break LA away from... They should have it, because then when it sinks, it'll be the end of them. They're considered a Maoist group, there you go, and have a quote from Mao Zedong. And they said, wherever there is a struggle, there is sacrifice, and death is a common occurrence. But we have the interests of the people and the sufferings of the great majority at heart. And when we die for the people, it is a worthy death. And that was said by Mao Zedong in September 1944.
I'm going to say that's a blast from the past.
Yes. And here's the next very interesting part. The Democratic Party, lurching so far left, and has become an admitted Democratic Socialist Party, and is called the Future of Our Party by the DNC chairman, Tom Perez. And it is imperative for those opposed to socialism, communism, and the fascist tactics of these Antifa groups to understand exactly what they want for America, and that they are more than prepared to arm up, form into mobs to attack anyone they disagree with by labeling them fascists. So anyone, according to this story, who doubts that the Democratic Party has become the party of Antifa only has to look at the DNC chairman's statement on the Democratic Socialist being the future of the party, or the deputy DNC chairman Keith Ellison proudly displaying an image of himself holding the copy of a book called Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook. On Twitter, and you can see this, and I will tell you that think of that the next time you want to criticize President Trump for what he's doing, because things are going on behind the scenes that nobody realizes. Now, speaking of behind the scenes and negative things, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan will visit Iran. Nice couple of groups there, Turkey and Iran, on September 7, his office said, and expect a three-way summit with Russian and Iranian leaders. The Kremlin said that Russian President Vladimir Putin may take part in a meeting with Erdogan and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani in the beginning of September to talk about Syria. I'm going to tell you something. There's an agenda there behind the scenes that I won't even say too much, but Russia has. And I would watch for major developments in Iran and Turkey before the end of this year. Speaking of Iran, did you know that 2 Iranian agents who were alleged to be running spy operations in U.S. soil were arrested recently? And they said they were part of an Islamic Republic's efforts to conduct intelligence operations in America that could result in a terrorist attack. The 2 Iranian individuals are charged with spying on Jewish and Israeli facilities in the California area. And they have unearthed concrete evidence, the government has, of the Islamic Republic's efforts to foment discord across the globe, including American soil. Now, there is a man named Representative Peter Roskin from Illinois. He said this is the tip of the iceberg. This is not a surprise. And guess what he said? This is not a surprise, and this is the result of the Iran regime getting financial support from the Obama administration in the Iran deal. Obama set this up. I'm telling you, he's a major Muslim terrorist. He and Michael. And it also goes on to say, give a malevolent regime huge amounts of cash with no restraining influence, and this is what happens. Lawmakers and experts have been warning for some time that Iran has stationed what some describe as sleeper cells across the United States. These agents are believed to operate with impunity and could lay the groundwork for a large-scale terror attack on American soil. And this is also very interesting. These Iranian spies were formally charged by the Trump administration, which allegedly acting on behalf of the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, by conducting covert surveillance of American and Jewish facilities of the United States and collecting identifying information about American citizens and U.S. nationals who are members of a group called Mujahideen-e-Khalq, an Iranian opposition group that promotes regime change in the Islamic Republic. And I want people to remember what happened last month when a small plane crashed into a shopping center in the LA area, and on board were Iranian American business people. So were they part of this anti-Iranian opposition group? And was that plane sabotaged to crash? What were they going to do in LA area?
Good questions.
Put the pieces together, people. Now, speaking of things that are happening behind the scenes, did you know that humanity is trying to figure out what to do with and how to define killer robots? I know you reported on that a while back, but experts from several countries are meeting at the Geneva offices of the United Nations this week to focus on lethal autonomous weapon systems and explore ways of regulating them. Because in theory, the fully autonomous computer-controlled weapons don't exist yet. Yes, they do. And it says that governments and military should be prevented from developing such systems too late, and have sparked fears and led some critics to envision harrowing scenarios. Amnesty International urged countries to work toward a ban. That's not going to happen. And according to the report, it's no longer the stuff of science fiction, and that technological advances are outpacing international law. Yes, it's already happened. It's already developed. It's been deployed. And next step from that, in Utah. Do you like Utah?
A lot of things happen in Utah.
Well, of course, it's the Mormon capital. The Utah Data Center, which is codenamed Bumblehive. Where'd they get that? Bumblehive. Hive mind.
And also they like honey. Mormons store 7 years of honey in their basement.
Well, it's the first intelligence community comprehensive national cybersecurity initiative. It's called ICC-NCI. Leave it to Americans to come up with that. And it's designed to support the intelligence community's efforts to monitor, strengthen, and protect our nation. And the NSA is the executive agent for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And this center is their lead, this agency is the lead at the center. In February 2012, Utah Governor Gary Herbert revealed that the Utah Data Center would be the first facility in the world expected to gather and house a yottabyte.
What's a yottabyte?
Yottabyte.
What's a yottabyte?
I have no idea. I thought you would tell me.
No.
And it also estimated their storage capacity in terms of zettabytes and exabytes.
Well, you should have looked that up.
Well, I couldn't. It doesn't exist anywhere.
Apparently it exists in Utah.
And the actual capacity is classified for national security reasons. The Utah Data Center is powered by the massively parallel Cray XC30 supercomputer, the head Cray computers at Montauk Project, which is capable of scaling high-performance computing workloads of more than 100 petaflops.
Petaflops?
Petaflops, which means, this I do know, 100,000 trillion calculations per second.
That's a lot.
That's even more than I can do.
Almost.
Really. It's codenamed Cascade, and this behemoth was developed in conjunction with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, to meet the demanding needs of the intelligence community. And
We should have one. We're intelligent.
I don't need it's in my head. And outside of this building, there's a sign that says, quote, "If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear."
We don't have anything to hide.
Well, I exposed myself last week,
I guess so.
so I have nothing to hide. But let me tell you something. What I hide is my business. And you people at this agency in Utah, you are hiding, and you should be in fear when the people finally take control.
I don't know. That sounds ominous.
Well, their days are numbered. Now, do you believe in global warming?
Of course, everybody knows
You
it's
do?
true. Yes, everybody.
Is that why you painted your clothes on? Because you don't want to wear clothes? It's just paint. It's getting all over my fingers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
seriously.
everybody knows this global warming.
Because, people, in global warming, the ski season already started in August because the so-called heat wave in Europe came to an abrupt end as snow fell in Germany, Austria, and your country, Italy. 40 centimeters of snow dumped in parts of Europe despite being summer. Skiing was possible across a dozen glaciers, these melting glaciers, now they're skiing. That was freezing air at the end. At the German Weather Service, and they're very conservative, they said it was hard to believe there was such freezing air at the end of August. And ski fields across Switzerland, Austria, and Italy were opened for the earliest ever. And not only in Europe, but if we go down under, as winter is ending in Australia, they have experienced very low temperatures below freezing in Sydney and Melbourne. And in the higher elevations, some areas reported the coldest temperature in decades. Sydney and the city of Melbourne were below 0 centigrade, and it was the coldest start of a day since 1986. And in one town called Falls Creek near Melbourne, it was the coldest low temperature since 1974. Sounds like global warming to me. And it said that the cold air and the strong cold front was likely enough for frost and even a few late winter snowflakes in hot Australia.
Wow.
I remember last week I told you it was snowing in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Sounds like global warming to me.
And it was hailing in Spain. We saw those were golf ball size.
Yes, and we had snow in Montana, Wyoming, Alaska. Yeah, it's global warming.
So I want to go ahead with my stories.
Yeah,
next.
you go right ahead.
All right, I have a very fascinating first story.
More than mine?
More than yours, I think, because remember we reported on the Q400 plane that crashed.
Yes.
And we reported on the missile attack supposedly in Puget Sound. Mm-hmm. Okay, now last week we had another issue in Puget Sound.
Ooh.
And this was very interesting. It's still mysterious to me because this would be the third one. And even there was a writer who called it weirdness. Yeah. And that I agree with. Because they said, and now this was interesting because this story was on local news for almost 24 hours before national news picked it up.
Yeah, it was nowhere on the national.
Because we checked. Mm-hmm. So, a decades-old mine discovered floating in the waters of Port Orchard Bay in Puget Sound was safely detonated according to the U.S. Navy. And the Navy said when they detonated, there was no secondary explosion, so they believe the device was inert. And then they went on to say the old ordnance was found by a State Department of Natural Resources crew about 1,200 yards east of the Brownsville Marina. So what was the State Department of Natural Resources crew doing out there? That's a question. Mm-hmm. And they keep saying, the Navy officials themselves said, quote, upon initial inspection, the unidentified, now it says moored mine, which moored means it's in place. So it's moored, not just floating. Moored.
M-O-O-R-E-D, not
yes.
M-O-R-D.
Right. The moored mine was found to have decades of marine growth. So they kept repeating that.
That it was old.
That it was old. It was decades of
Didn't
marine
they first
growth.
report it was a World War II
Well, they reported
mine?
a lot of things. But the issue is that, first of all, they're saying it's decades of marine growth. Now, these are Navy people. They ought to know what's out in the sea, right? Mm. They ought to have, like, biologists and marine people and think. Whatever else. And they said it's unidentified. So 2 divers went into the water, hitched a tow line to it, and they claimed they were going to tow it back to Keyport. Then the next thing we know, they decided to detonate it, and so they towed it. What we saw on the line was next to a bridge, which I thought was odd, and they had it exploded. But the locals were saying there was no word yet where the mine came from, how it ended up in the water, how it got loose. So people were even saying that it floated across the ocean from World War II.
That's impossible.
And if you look at Puget Sound on the map,
you can't get in there.
You have to go around the Olympic Peninsula, you have to go through the islands, and then you get in Puget Sound. So it's not so easy, right?
Not possible.
So then, finally, they say, this is the Navy, that this was an unarmed training mine that the Navy placed in the water back in 2005. So that's 13 years, there's number 13, and that's not decades old.
I was just about to say.
And they kept repeating decades of marine growth. They didn't know where it was from. 13 years ago, they don't recognize their own mine. This is what very...
Or why didn't they sweep it and clean it up when they were done with their training session then?
What they say...
They knew how many they put out.
Well, they said it was part of a command exercise in 2005, and during this exercise, inert training mines were placed in areas between Brownsville, Keyport, and Bainbridge Island, and only a small number of the training mines were positively buoyant, and not all training mines were recovered. However, this one they said was moored. So if it's moored, like how did it get out? And also, how could it have decades of marine growth if now the Navy's saying it was 13 years old?
Right.
So the exercise itself looked at how unmanned underwater vehicles could detect underwater objects and avoid submerged obstacles. So in order to avoid similar incidents in the future, the Navy will survey the exercise areas and recover any remaining positively buoyant mines.
Oh, that's a great idea.
But this wasn't positively
let's
buoyant.
recover all the stuff we put in the water.
But the point is how, I still say, how did it get there and where did it come from?
No, there's a cover story.
Yeah, it's a cover story for something, and it was dropped. Once the Navy issued this, we never heard another statement, and to find it on national news was practically impossible. So it's 3 strange incidents in Puget Sound. So I think that's definitely an area we need to watch of what's going on in Puget
Something's
Sound.
happening.
3 things is usually what happens for some kind of a major ritual happening. So I would say watch for earthquakes, watch for volcanic activity,
Well, it's all coming.
and I don't know what else is going to go on, but weirdness stuff. Okay? Now, speaking of President Trump, Melania Trump is back in the news because, again, people are talking about her having a body double. Now, there was that movie that was made some time back. Remember, some dictator had a double, or his brother had a double. Do you remember?
They all do.
Yeah. So, but now they're talking about it. Before, they didn't talk about it. So, apparently, she and Trump went to some event in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, to visit the Nationwide Children's Hospital and dine with the state's Republican Party. And so, when they looked at her, now they're saying it really wasn't her.
It wasn't.
It wasn't her. They're claiming, now this was interesting, that she has a look-alike Secret Service agent.
Yeah, I've seen the picture of it.
How do you know?
That was
Why would they show
months
that
ago.
if it was true? Because it's supposed to be a secret.
Well, not anymore.
And then other people are saying she's cloned. And some are saying it's Hope Hicks. Now, I will tell you what I got out of this whole thing.
What?
I will tell you is, why does she always wear those huge sunglasses?
And those gigantic heels.
Well, the heels are one thing. Any woman can wear that. But why is she always hiding behind sunglasses? Because I will tell you, I've watched her now for the last, 2 years? Has it been practically?
Almost, yeah.
Okay, and so it is rude to wear your sunglasses in public when you're greeting people.
What if you want to look cool?
Well, but that's my point. She's a first lady. Her job isn't to look cool, it's to represent our country.
Yes, but she was a model.
Doesn't matter. Even as a model, they're not modeling sunglasses. She's not a sunglass model. And she's almost 50 years old.
No.
Yes, so the point is what's she doing walking around all the time, and no matter where you see her, she's got these huge sunglasses on. That's rude. So I'm just going to put that out there for you.
Maybe she likes that song, I Wear My Sunglasses at Night.
I don't know, but it's a rude thing to do, so maybe something else is going on there that we don't know about. Anyway, and then on to the royal family, because this I found interesting as well, that Meghan Markle's brother has blasted the royals for failing to treat his family like the Middletons. Because
they're so much alike.
Well, they are. Listen to this. He singled out Kate Middleton's uncle, Gary Goldsmith. Have you heard of him?
No.
Saying that the royal family has welcomed him, even though Gary Goldsmith has been convicted of domestic assault. He's had 4 marriages and has been filmed apparently cutting up cocaine.
Well, that's like the entire royal family,
But
really.
the point being is that Kensington Palace is looking after Kate's family, but not his family, Meghan's family.
Well, I would say something to the Queen.
So apparently the Thomas Sr., not the brother, Thomas Sr. has chosen to compare the royal family to Scientologists and accuses them of being cult-like and secretive.
Well, that's the truth.
And the brother complained because he was not invited to Meghan and Harry's family.
Me too.
And he said he would have gotten along well with Uncle Gary.
I bet.
And he said that most of Kate's family were present at her wedding at Westminster Abbey, while the only one of Meghan Markle's family that was invited was her 61-year-old mother.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
They just wanted her to clean up after.
I don't know, but that's not a nice thing to say.
Well.
It's not. Okay, anyway. Now,
They made her sit all by herself.
on to New York Fashion Week, which is coming up again, starting September 5th.
Another thing I was not invited to.
September 30th. And I will tell you that the thing that's being featured this time, everything is always something weird, and it gets more weird every time you think it can't get more weird, are now skin jewelry implants.
You mean you wear it under your skin?
Well, that's what it's supposed to look like. So like they have one model, I don't remember, that might have been Kim Kardashian,
or tattooed, like
No.
tattoo rings on
No,
you?
it's like they would implant jewelry under your skin, and then it
Oh.
would show the design, and then maybe they would put like
Oh, that would
gemstones
hurt.
in it. I would think so.
I wouldn't want that.
So there's a company called
Who does that?
A Human. Well, they showed some people with like what it could look like. So they had one person with like these neck ruffles, like gills.
Under their skin.
Well, it's on top now, but the point is they think that it could be a real thing at some point, kind of like the Hunger Games.
No.
And then, Kim Kardashian had this human choker on, and then they have another one that had like these huge horns implanted in the shoulders, and one that had on like feathered chest plates. It's supposed to be under
Well, that's
the
what I
skin.
had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the people got upset about that.
I have my feathered chest plates on.
Yeah. Anyway, so apparently, it said that this is going to continue to happen. The company's name is A Human,
Yeah.
and so they are saying
Which
that
means not human.
A Human wants people to put more fashion on their bodies than the clothes.
Like you.
So that's what they're going to showcase for this particular company at New York Fashion Week.
Yeah, that's going to be a real hit.
So, well, people are doing it. And then, back to one of your favorite countries,
Ooh.
Australia.
Oh, I love it. I love my Australia.
Did you hear about the huge meteor that lit up the sky last week in Australia?
Yes, but that wasn't the only place.
Well, this was last week specifically that I'm telling you about, that the local fire department was inundated with calls of an explosion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, the researcher, Renee Sayers from Curtin University's Desert Fireball Network, which I never heard of it, but there must be a lot of
Desert
them.
Fireball.
If there's actually a Desert Fireball Network, said that scientists will use multiple footages to locate the meteor, and said it's so accurate we can work out where it came down on Earth and where it came from in space, and also
Right.
work out the orbit.
Right, and except that you'll never hear about it.
That's what I was
again.
going to say. There's no updates. They claim the meteor is believed to have landed about 100 kilometers to the east of Perth, and now they're looking for it.
Yeah, they'll never, because it's not there.
And along those lines, NASA is warning for 3 giant asteroids to skim the Earth.
I heard about it. But it's not really skim the Earth.
Well, this is what they claim. It's called a PHA, which is potentially hazardous asteroid. So they keep, remember, we've told you about
They
this
just
for the
love
last,
letters.
2 or 3 years, maybe even 5 years. We get more and more of these. So 3 of them now. September 2nd, I'm going to give you the date, and
Whoa.
September 3rd.
Get
So
shelter in place.
point being is they're giving you dates, and they can't find that plane where, remember the
Right.
Malaysian airline?
Yeah, that's
But they
the
can
missing on the
tell you-
Earth with all the satellite and everything, but
Right.
they can't find that.
Right, and they can tell you about this, and so far we don't know about this supposed asteroid in Australia.
Well, I better wear your asteroid hat next week or
And
so.
asteroid diapers, maybe.
I have that on now.
And did you hear about, let me see, what is her name, a former NASA chief, Dr. Ellen Stofan, said that she believes that life previously evolved on Mars. As she explained all this, the case for sending humans to Mars before a U.S. Senate subcommittee on space science and competitiveness.
So she read my books.
Maybe. She now leads the Smithsonian's Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., and she underlined her confidence that alien fossils are buried beneath Martian soil,
Or oil.
soil, maybe oil too. And she said that most likely developed to the point of simple microbial organisms. So they're not saying they're big,
Oh.
but they're saying we need to go look.
We have microbial organisms in the White House area and the Washington D.C. and
Point being is more and more space stuff, and they always have to start small. And so people ask us continually, when are you going to talk about disclosure? When is there going to be disclosure?
It isn't gonna be, people.
This is what it is. It's bit by bit. They are telling
Not until
you
my
things.
people come.
And bit by bit, they're putting it out there, and so you don't even realize they're telling you because they're so insidious about it. Okay, so
They use big words.
we need to remind you that we only have, about a week left before our class begins? Or
that's
week
about-
and a half?
Not even.
And we have, I think, 2 spaces left. If you're interested in coming, you need to register ASAP.
I got space in here.
I know. And directly after that, we're going to start a series of webinars again on affirmations. Now, this is all kinds of tools in here to help you in your everyday life. And you know what? We talk about things from programming and deprogramming to things that abandonment to mother-father issues, and this is what is going to help you deal with anything that's going on in the world. And on this class, I think I have 4 spaces left. So we have a max of 20. I think I have 4 left on this one.
Wow, that's going to be a big one.
If you haven't registered yet, you need to do that. You do get recordings afterwards. So I have some people in different parts of the world who can't personally be on, but they reserve a space and they get the recordings afterwards. They work through the homework and they send them back. And some people get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
In Australia.
Yeah, in Australia, and then some people, we have them
some parts of Europe.
in Europe that do it. So we have a lot of people dedicated. We did Decoding Your Life, which is on Universal Law. If you don't have this, this is a basic book you need. Hyperspace Helper is a basic book you need. And if you don't have this book, this is a great one to help you navigate your daily life so that you understand what's going on out there and you don't fall victim to a lot of these schemes, okay? Then you're directly after that. You are heading for Tampa, right? You are going to be giving the history of the Templars there, I believe.
And a Kuiper Belt update connecting that to the Templars
All right.
on the island of
That
Nevis.
should be fascinating. I know people are signing up for that already. I think it's a bigger venue, so I think you have more space there, right?
Yes, and then we have the investiture, and it's very likely that we'll have the governor of Florida, the governor of Idaho, some state senators from Florida, the lady who's running for office from Miami who speaks to aliens.
Yeah. And if you are interested in joining SMOC, this is the time that you can have an
There will be
investiture.
a special delegation from the island of Puerto Rico and a special offer to become a citizen of Puerto Rico in the Borinquen tribal naturalization process.
So there's always lots of things going on with SMOC. We do have a page on our website that explains exactly what SMOC is. SMOKH, right? The Sacred Medical Order of the Knights of Hope. It's a very fascinating organization, and Dr. Charles McWilliams always has lots of fascinating research that he puts out there on a variety of subjects. So that's all I'll say. You need to look that one up. Okay?
Yes.
Hyperspace Plus, Healing Archetypes and Symbols are great books to read. If you have any children in your family, we do have the holidays coming up, or if you speak another language, this is great. Archetypes, we have protection, we have auras, and we have
an aura.
chakra system, and they're filled with nice color pictures.
Those
which
are
I
actually
know
good
you
colors.
love. They're very good. So we had a great artist who did
That
this.
was.
And so if you don't have this set, this is a great one to add to your collection, regardless of age. I will tell you, it's very good.
I
to
even
have
read
one.
them.
I know you do.
Sometimes I have trouble with the words and you help me.
Yeah, I do. So with that said, thank you for joining us, and thank you again for your kind comments. And sometimes people write their comments in and don't call each other names because we have to delete that. Don't call us names because we have to delete that. So be respectful. That's what we are doing our best, other than sometimes you do slip. I know I have to remind you.
I'm not politically correct.
But do your best to be respectful when you post the comments, and thank all of you for writing in who said they couldn't believe that
I was so beautiful?
know that you were like showing off a lion tattoo. So please think about things and who we are and what we do.
No.
Right?
No, yeah, and this is my blue chest here, actually.
Yeah, and this is
I'm actually
tattooed on, right?
my-
Embedded into your skin.
This is actually my real body from my planet.
Yeah, that's what I believe. So like, comment, share. Invite your friends to like, comment, and share. And please like our Facebook page, like, comment, and share. Because that's the best way to get the knowledge out about hyperspace oversoul tools and
Not
techniques.
Sunny and share, but share the podcast.
Yes, that's very smart that you told them that. All right?
Thank you.
All right.
I'm really stupid.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.